many of you know somebody who has? So, post-traumatic stress disorder, better known as PTSD, is an anxiety disorder. It's commonly known among war veterans and rape victims. It's important for all of you to know the causes and effects of this disorder because it can happen to anyone, even ourselves. So, my neighbor Roger, he's a war veteran, so he developed PTSD. So I did research on this to know more about it. After today, I hope you all understand the seriousness of this disorder, and hopefully it encourages you all to help those who may have it. So first I'm gonna go over the causes of PTSD, then the effects, and finally I'm gonna tell you how people can receive help for it. What causes PTSD? PTSD could develop after someone has gone through an extreme emotional trauma involving the injury or death of somebody, according to ncbi.gov, which is the National Center of Biotechnology and Information, which was last updated in January 2014 by Timothy Rowe. So examples that cause PTSD are war, domestic abuse, prison stay, car accidents, assaults, sexual assaults, and natural disasters. Also, according to NCBI, it says that your genes, emotions, and family history may all play roles to getting PTSD. So, according to PTSD.va.gov, which is the National Center of PTSD, about 60% of American men and 50% of American women have at least gone through one traumatic event in their lifetime. Don't be afraid of it. Only about 8% of men and 20% of women will actually develop this disorder. So, I've gone over some of the effects of PTSD. Next time we'll go over the symptoms. So, PTSD can change you from the way you socialize to the very structure of your brain. So, according to NCBI, there are 4 symptoms of PTSD. That includes reliving the event, avoidance, hyperarousal, and negative personality. So reliving the event is primarily a person has frequent flashbacks of that tragic event, or they'll have repeated nightmares of it. Avoidance includes repressed memories, feeling detached from society, and avoiding people and places. Hyperarousal includes also repressed memories, lack of focus, outbursts of anger, and having trouble sleeping and staying awake. Finally, for negative personality, it includes having survivor's guilt, blaming others for the event, repressed memories as well, and loss of interest of everything. According to a peer-reviewed article published in January 2014 by Daniel J. Lee, who is a researcher for the University of Auburn, he claims that about 40% of people who have developed PTSD have actually had suicidal thoughts, and only about 20% have attempted it. So next I'm going to go over the brain. So, according to Matthew Stoll, who has a PhD and conducts research specifically on PTSD, the PTSD plays a major role in the hippocampus. For those who don't know, the hippocampus is a part of the limbic system that is responsible for memory, motivations, and emotions. So they believe that people who develop PTSD tend to have smaller hippocampi than those with healthy brains. Also, according to Sarah Avery, which is a writer for Duke Medicine and Communications, researchers believe that the amygdala also plays a big role in PTSD. They believe people who develop PTSD also have smaller amygdalas than those with healthy brains. For those who don't know as well, the amygdala is a part of the temporal lobe near the hippocampus that is responsible for fear, arousal, and certain emotions. So I just went over some of the effects of PTSD. Next I'm going to go over how people are able to get help for it. So there are 2 effective ways that doctors can help patients with PTSD. The first one is therapy. So because PTSD has specific symptoms, there are many treatments for it, but not all of them work. Only certain. So doctors have to try a number of treatments before they realize which one works best for each person. According to WebMD.com, which was last updated in January 2013, the most effective type of therapy is behavioral therapy. So behavioral therapy is simply the therapist changes the patient's negative moods into positive behavior and actions. Necessarily what they do is the therapist sits down with the patient and they talk about the horrific event and they go over it until the patient feels comfortable about it. So next I'm going to talk about effective medicine. According to the same website, webmd.com, they claim that SSRI medicine is the most effective medicine for PTSD. SSRI medicine are antidepressants that are effective for anxiety and personality disorders. But there are other medicines that work just as effectively. For example, atypical antidepressants are used. Studies have shown that it actually reduces PTSD symptoms. Other ones are prazosin, which are used for nightmares and sleeping problems. And finally, antipsychotics are useful for nightmares, and flashbacks. But researchers still need to do a lot of research on these drugs because they're still not sure of the side effects that could cause them. So, now I'm gonna wrap things up. I hope after today you all realize the importance of PTSD, and hopefully, like I said before, it encourages you to help people who may have it. First, I went over the causes of PTSD, then I went over the effects, and finally I told you how people who have PTSD can get help. So, I'm gonna leave you with this. Like I said before, my neighbor Roger, who was a war veteran and developed PTSD, you know, he refused to get help as much as he needed it. And now all he does is just drink and stays at home, and I think recently he just developed depression. So if any of you know someone like Roger, I suggest that with all this information I'm giving you, it encourages you to help that person. Thank you.